It's Halloween! Well, boys, it is Halloween, and you know what time it is? Spooky time. It's Halloween night. So I thought, hey, why wouldn't I make a Halloween special to celebrate the occasion? So today we're gonna be talking and celebrating and praising one of the greatest horror movies in existence. Yes, Halloween. No, not the 2018 reboot, and no, not that weird reboot they had back when they tried to reboot it earlier by Rob Zombies or whatever. And definitely not Halloween Kills, because that one was terrible. And definitely not the abomination that is Halloween Ends. Today we're going to be talking about John Carpenter's original Halloween that released in 1978. Halloween takes place in a small town called Haddonfields, Illinois. And one dark night, Michael Myers breaks out of the asylum and returns to his hometown of Haddonfield to continue his murderous rampage. And it all takes place on Halloween, hence the name. This movie, despite having limited production and a incredibly small budget, it became an instant classic when it came out. And honestly, it created the idea of a slasher film. The movie starts out with a POV shot of a kid walking around a house, watching his sister making out with a guy. I don't know what his name is. He's just the guy. Now I thought, hey, this is just a kid being a little quirky, watching his sister make out with another guy. Being a little pest, a little annoyance, as kids do. Then it takes a turn for the worst when he grabs a knife in the kitchen and goes upstairs slowly and kills his sister. I like how this is shot from a POV angle of the killer because we see how he kills, how he hunts his prey. The opening scene created the most signature hallmarks of horror slasher movies. You see this in Jaws. You see the perspective of the enemy coming up to them. You know, it's a hallmark of the horror theme. Now this trope isn't just contained within horror movies. You see this everywhere. A normal blockbuster movie wants to, you know, get you with a little spook. It has that POV shot of the enemy and sneaking up onto the protagonist. It's a very classic move, and I think it's done very well, and I'm glad that this trope exists, because it's fun. I like how this just adds a lot of campy elements, like the teenagers making out while the parents are away. This is also a very slow scene, but I think it's built up very well, because it builds the tension of what this kid's gonna do very, very well. It's a great setup for a movie, and you know, you never get lost. Then we jump forward 15 years and we are introduced to Dr. Loomis and his assistant going to get Michael Myers from the asylum that he's been contained in for the first murder of his sister. But then we get there and there's just a bunch of inmates in the lawn, and then Michael just out of nowhere comes up on top of the car, starts smashing the window. I think this is the weakest part of the film just because I'm pretty sure we're not explained to why he just escapes and why all these inmates are out. It's probably just because while transferring Michael out in and out of different cells, one of the officers must have slipped, dropped their weapon, and Michael just saw that as an opportunity to say, you know what, I'm gonna do it anyway. But then also, how does Michael know all about like everything in that hospital to get out? Because there's different doors you gotta open, there's a bunch of buttons you gotta open, security checks. How do you get out of that facility? I'm assuming it's well secured. Anyway, none of this is explained, which is why this movie is a terrible movie. And John Carpenter is the worst director of our generation. I'm just kidding, please don't kill me. Then we cut today and we're introduced to Jamie Lee Curtis as her first ever film role as Laurie Strode. Laurie and her friend are walking home from school, and Laurie sees Michael skulking around town, but when she tells her friend to look, he disappears. This is a trope that is kind of annoying, honestly, but I think they play with it really well. They actually go up to the bush that he disappeared from and just start looking around it. And, he could pop out at any moment, but, he just disappears. But from that moment, Laurie keeps seeing him throughout the day. Anyway, Halloween night comes, and it's game on. Michael is getting ready to do what he does best, and that's kill teenagers and babysitters. Michael Myers is the perfect antagonist for this movie. He has no morals, he has no grand elaborate plan or motive at all. His only motive is that he wants to kill people, and that's his only plan. He's going to kill people. He's not some grand mustache twirling villain. He has no thoughts, just kill. And we never know much about him. Is he this ancient demon spirit that possesses people every 100 years and possesses them as a young child only to seek and kill people every Halloween? Or could he just be some guy? We don't know. And that's a part of the mystery, honestly. It's good not to tell people everything, because if you just tell everyone everything about Michael Myers, nobody's gonna be interested anymore, because all that mystery and curiosity is gone because we know everything about him. I don't want to know his blood type. Maybe it's just oil. Maybe he's a robot. Maybe he can shoot lasers out of his eyes and he just doesn't because that would be lame. I don't know. Michael also never speaks in the movie, and all we hear from him is this raspy breathing from behind the mask, which is a nice touch in combination with the mask because it leaves barely any emotion to come through, which fits with the character being a heartless demon that only derives pleasure through killing unsuspecting victims and toying with them before he kills them. Jamie Lee Curtis as Laurie Strode is a perfect opponent to Michael and is a great protagonist as well. She's more mature than her fellow classmates, and it makes her seem older than she actually is. I'm assuming she's like a senior in high school. She seems very wise. She is like a Gandalf, but even with that higher maturity, she still has that hint of curiosity she would have as a high schooler. She's a very stoic character. She's a responsible human being as well. Overall, well-rounded person, and she can hold her own when coming up against Michael Myers. And when she does come in contact with Michael, she absolutely sells the vulnerability and fearfulness that someone would have and feel when coming up against a murdering psychopath. And with this amount of trauma hitting her like a semi-truck and all of this fearfulness that she would have, she still can carry her own and never comes off as a damsel in distress character. And you're absolutely rooting for her throughout this entire movie. Halloween is a movie that doesn't overstay its welcome either. It's a nice 90-minute movie that is short, sweet, and straight to the point and never drags at any point. But it doesn't just cut out all the meat and leave you with nonsense kills. It actually takes its time to build up story. The first on-screen kill in this movie actually has a lot of setup time. And actually the first on-screen death is actually a dog. Yeah, Michael kills a dog. That is unforgivable. And even with all of this setup of Michael hunting his victim, it never loses tension. You're always on that height of, oh no, he's around the corner, you know, and then it subverts your expectations and he's not actually there. But you're still very tense. The masked villain trope in horror flicks has been done to death at this point, but seeing it here makes the concept feel fresh and exciting, and that's probably because it was the first one. This movie does have some flaws though. Don't worry, I'm not just gonna praise this movie for the entire runtime of this video. I will criticize, don't worry. I still got that thing on me. Due to very limited production time, some of these long dialogue shots and, you know, setup shots in the beginning have this rushed energy to them. And the fact that the actors knew that they had to get this in one take, because if they didn't, they might not have time for the next one. There is definitely a rushed energy to it, and some of the acting is not great. But some of the performances are so good and they don't feel rushed at all, like Donald Pleasence's role as Dr. Loomis. This is the greatest role in this movie. I'm sorry, Curtis, step aside, bring in the doctor. It just adds this extra layer of drama and gravity to the movie. Like, watch this clip.
I met him 15 years ago. I was told there was nothing left. No conscience, no understanding, and even the most rudimentary sense of life or death, good or evil, right or wrong. I met this 6-year-old child with this blank, pale, emotionless face and the blackest eyes, the devil's eyes. I spent 8 years trying to reach him, and then another 7 trying to keep him locked up because I realized that what was living behind that boy's eyes was purely and simply evil.
Perfect. And if you like cinematography, which I do, you'll want to pay attention to this movie. This movie definitely does it by the book when it comes to cinematography, except for that POV shot in the beginning, which was really good. Overall, it's pretty normal camera work, but specifically the way he uses types of shots is very well done for world building and building tension. He uses extreme long panning shots to set up the environment and the setting of this small town. He uses medium shots to show not only the two people talking, but also the surrounding environment. He uses the rule of thirds to make a more dynamic shot, rather than it just being a static shot with just the character in the middle of the frame. Then he uses a combination of long, medium, and close-up shots to exaggerate, yo, Michael's showing up. He also adds this with fast editing, putting in clips of the victims struggling while they're being killed by Michael. This all adds tension. There's a lot of basic shots in this movie, but they're used cleverly. They're used well when it comes to using different shots to tell a story. But it's very subtle, and if you're not looking for it, you won't care. Which shows just how much creative energy was put into this movie, despite its limitations. And I think that's my big takeaway from this movie. That even if the odds are against you, you can still make a really good story and a really good movie. And you can make anything as long as you put in the effort and have the creative drive, and you can truly make something amazing. This video just ended really cliche, didn't it? But what else can I say? If you haven't seen this movie, go see it. If you haven't seen it already, I'd be amazed. It's been over 40 years. What's taking you so long? Go watch it. It's right there. Go watch it. I'm gonna stop yelling at you. But hey, that's just my opinion about a movie. And I'm just some guy on the internet that yells about movies. But I would love to have discussion with you in the comments below. And if you think I deserve it, please hit that like and subscribe button. But with that said, I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye. I'm gonna keep doing this. Okay.